You ever look at someone and realize they didn't break overnight? That the moment you're seeing isn't the moment they fell apart. It's just the moment they stopped hiding it. That's how it is with a married woman who ends up in another man's arms. People talk like she woke up one morning and chose chaos, but they never see the years that shaped her silence. The nights she cried quietly beside a man who didn't notice. The love she kept giving to someone who had already stopped receiving it. Before she ever crosses that line, her heart's been crossing it for months, maybe years. Her smile has been shrinking. Her voice has been fading. Her eyes have been telling stories no one bothered to read. And every time she tried to reach out, her hands came back empty. What people call betrayal is sometimes just a woman finally choosing to feel alive after dying slowly in plain sight. You want to understand why she did it? Then don't look at the moment she left. Look at the moment she realized she wasn't seen anymore. That's where the truth begins. That's where her story changed. That's where the warning signs were written and ignored. When a woman feels unseen and unheard inside her own home, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow fade, like the dimming of a candle that used to light up the whole room. In the beginning, she spoke with fire in her voice, with belief in her heart, thinking the man she loved was listening, not just hearing words, but feeling them, respecting them, holding them like they mattered. But somewhere along the journey, she noticed his eyes didn't meet hers the same way. She noticed conversations got shorter, responses got colder, and the space between them grew wider even while sleeping on the same bed. That's how it begins, the quiet kind of pain nobody sees. People think women fall into another man's arms because they're chasing thrill. That's not the truth. The truth is far more tragic. A woman breaks emotionally long before she ever steps outside the marriage. She starts questioning her worth when her stories get ignored, her feelings get downplayed, her efforts get taken for granted. She starts shrinking herself, silencing her thoughts, adjusting her needs, because every time she spoke up, it felt like she was speaking into a void. Imagine talking to someone who answers with nods, but never with understanding. Imagine living with someone who hears the noise of your voice, but never the meaning behind it. That's emotional abandonment. That's the beginning of the storm. A woman once said, "The worst loneliness isn't being alone. It's being invisible to the person you love." She wasn't exaggerating. Studies have shown that emotional neglect triggers the same regions of the brain as physical pain. That means the hurt is real. It hits the nervous system. It drains energy. It affects health, confidence, mental peace. And because she isn't the type to complain loudly, she just endures. She keeps washing the dishes. She keeps raising the kids. She keeps managing the home, hoping one day he'll notice she's tired. Hoping someday he'll ask, "Are you okay?" Not because she wants sympathy, but because she wants connection. But days turn into weeks, and weeks into years. And now even the sound of silence feels heavier than any argument could. She keeps trying. She cooks his favorite meals. She fixes her hair like he used to love. She puts effort into conversations he no longer entertains. She lowers her voice, raises her patience, sacrifices more than she should, all just to feel like she still matters. But nothing works. And when effort becomes one-sided, it becomes heartbreak in disguise. Then comes the moment she meets someone who listens. Not someone perfect, just someone present. Someone who locks eyes when she speaks. Someone who asks how her day was. Someone who notices when she's not okay, even when she pretends everything's fine. And that small attention, that gentle validation, that feeling of finally being seen, it awakens something inside her. Not lust, not infidelity, but relief. A breath she's been holding in for years. A weight she didn't know she could let go of. It's not that this new person is better. It's that he reminds her she's still alive. Women aren't built to be invisible. They aren't built to be background characters in their own homes. When a woman gives everything, her time, her emotions, her energy, and gets nothing meaningful in return, she becomes hollow. And in that hollowness, even a small voice from someone else can sound like music. Nobody sees that part. People only see the affair and say she was wrong. They don't see the years she cried quietly, the nights she slept with her back turned feeling unwanted, the morning she put on a smile just to keep the peace. Being unseen is the deepest wound a relationship can inflict. And when she finally reaches for someone who sees her, she isn't betraying her husband. She's trying to save the pieces of herself she lost along the way. Sometimes a woman doesn't go looking for another man because she's unhappy. She goes looking because she's exhausted from trying to carry the relationship alone. People forget that love is teamwork. Love is two hearts pouring into each other. But what happens when one heart keeps giving while the other keeps taking? What happens when she becomes the one who fixes everything, remembers everything, sacrifices everything, and still feels like she's getting nothing back? That kind of emotional imbalance doesn't ruin a marriage in one blow. It destroys it piece by piece. It starts small. She asks for effort, just a little. Maybe for him to plan a date, to show appreciation, to surprise her the way he used to. Maybe just to hold her in silence after a long day. But over time, she stops asking because she's tired of repeating herself. And he stops caring because he's grown comfortable. Comfort kills more marriages than conflict ever does. When a man knows she'll stay no matter how little he gives, he stops giving altogether. And the crazy part is, she doesn't leave. She keeps showing up. She keeps loving. She keeps investing, even when she's hurting. But love shrinks when it's not watered. And she starts whispering things to herself she never said out loud. Why do I feel alone when I'm not alone? Why does my heart feel hungry even though I have someone beside me? Why am I pouring into someone who doesn't pour into me? These thoughts turn into emotions, and these emotions turn into distance. Not physical distance, emotional distance, the kind that no one sees but she feels every second. And while she's holding up the relationship like a bridge built on one pillar, she slowly starts losing parts of herself. Her joy becomes routine. Her glow becomes duty. Her smile becomes a habit she puts on like makeup. And the worst part is, he doesn't even notice. He thinks everything is fine because she doesn't complain the way she used to. But silence isn't peace, it's surrender. And surrender is what happens right before a woman gives up. Then one day, someone enters her life who makes her feel something she forgot she could feel: effort. Not grand gestures, not expensive gifts, not some dramatic sweep, her off her feet fantasy. No, simple effort. A man who texts first. A man who listens when she speaks. A man who compliments her without being prompted. A man who pays attention to what she likes, what she hates, what makes her nervous, what makes her smile. A man who shows interest, not because he wants something from her, but because he genuinely values who she is. That small effort feels like sunlight to someone who's been living under emotional clouds for years. She didn't run into his arms, she drifted. Drifted because she was tired of being the only source of love in her marriage. Drifted because she wanted to feel chosen again. Wanted to feel important. Wanted to feel like someone cared about her happiness. You can't blame a person for wanting what every human is wired to need. A real life example. A wife once said she spent 12 years begging her husband to take her out just because he always had excuses: work, stress, responsibilities. Then one day, a coworker simply brought her a cup of coffee and said, "You looked tired today, figured you needed this." That's all it took, not the coffee, the intention. It reminded her that effort doesn't take much, it just takes heart. And when she feels effort from someone else after years of drought, she starts questioning why she stayed in a place where she always felt empty. She doesn't cheat because she's evil or reckless. She cheats because she's starving. A starving heart will grab the first piece of warmth it finds. The third reason sits in a place most people never talk about, because it's messy, uncomfortable, and forces us to face parts of ourselves we hide behind closed doors. It's the hunger for emotional connection. Not the type you post on social media, not the kind people pretend to have in front of family, but the quiet desire to feel seen, valued, and understood by somebody, anybody. See, you can live in the same house with someone and still feel like a stranger. You can share a bed with someone but feel like two ghosts lying side by side. And when that emotional warmth begins to fade, a woman doesn't instantly look for a lover. She fights, she explains, she tries, she waits. But a heart can only knock on a locked door for so long. This isn't about her chasing excitement. It's about her wanting to feel alive again. It's about wanting her voice to matter. Her feelings to land somewhere other than thin air. I've seen women sitting across from the man they married, speaking with shaking voices, pouring out their truth. But the words hit the floor like no one was listening. That silence, it's loud, it hurts, it changes people. And over time, that pain becomes a shadow sitting at the edge of every conversation, every meal, every night spent pretending things are fine. Imagine a woman who once laughed freely, who used to glow when she talked about her dreams. Then slowly she dimmed her own light because every time she reached out, she was dismissed. She learned to keep her feelings in because sharing them didn't feel safe anymore. So she started bottling everything up, her worries, her fears, her desires, until there was no space left inside her. And when someone new entered her life, someone who asked her how she was doing and genuinely waited for the answer, it felt like oxygen rushing into lungs that had forgotten how to breathe. This isn't justification, it's explanation. Because the truth is, connection is one of the strongest forces on earth. Someone finally listens, truly listens, it ignites something. Maybe it starts slow, a conversation, a shared laugh, someone noticing her new hairstyle when her husband didn't. Maybe it's the way he asks about her dreams and she realizes she stopped talking about them at home because no one cared. Little moments build into bigger moments. They don't plan it. They don't script it. It just happens. Hearts go where they feel safe, where they feel held, where they feel understood. And people judge her, saying she should have communicated more, but they never ask if she tried. They never ask how many conversations she initiated that were met with coldness, distraction, or irritation. They never ask how many nights she cried quietly because she didn't want to disturb the peace. They don't know how long she waited for someone to notice she was breaking. They don't know how heavy it is to carry loneliness inside a marriage. Sometimes the emotional bond cracks long before any physical bond does. And when another presence enters her life and fills that emotional void, when someone hears her pain, celebrates her highs, stands beside her lows, it becomes a place she retreats to. Not because she stopped loving her husband, but because she stopped being seen by him. People forget humans don't crave perfection, luxury, or fantasy. They crave understanding. They crave connection. They crave being heard. So when her emotional needs went unmet for too long and someone else showed up offering what she'd been missing, the line between comfort and temptation blurred. She didn't fall for him. She fell for the feeling of being valued again. And sometimes that feeling becomes stronger than the fear of consequences because emotional starvation can make even the strongest person vulnerable. That's how it begins. Not with betrayal, not with desire, but with a heart searching for a place where it no longer feels invisible. The fourth reason lives in a quiet corner of marriage, the place where routine slowly replaces passion. It's when the spark that once lit up two hearts starts to flicker, not because the love is gone, but because both people stopped feeding it. When passion fades, it doesn't disappear overnight. It slips away little by little, almost silently. First, the late night conversations stop. Then the small touches. Then the excitement of being around each other turns into just another part of the day. And one day, she wakes up realizing she misses the version of herself that used to feel desired, wanted, and alive. See, there's something powerful about a woman feeling wanted, genuinely wanted. Not just in a physical sense, but in a way that makes her feel irresistible to the person she loves. And when that feeling fades, it creates a deep ache, a question she tries to ignore. Am I still beautiful? Am I still worth desiring? These aren't shallow thoughts, they're human thoughts. Because passion isn't just about romance, it's about energy, attention, effort. It's about reminding each other, I choose you still again today. When that fire cools down, it leaves space for doubt, and doubt is a destructive thing. I've seen women who stood in front of the mirror thinking, maybe I'm the problem, maybe something changed in me. But the truth is, she didn't stop being beautiful. She didn't stop being worthy. She just stopped being seen in the way she used to. Marriage can get heavy with responsibilities. Kids, bills, routines, career stress, and passion is often the first victim of that heaviness. People assume love will carry everything, but love without effort is like a flame without oxygen. It doesn't matter how strong it started, it will eventually suffocate. Then someone comes along and reminds her of the feeling she thought she had lost forever. He compliments her when her husband doesn't notice the new dress. He looks at her like she's the only one in the room. He listens to her with the kind of a focus that feels electric. These things don't start as betrayal. They start as reminders. Reminders of who she once was. Reminders of the electricity she used to carry effortlessly. Reminders that she's still vibrant, still attractive, still capable of lighting up someone's world. And that reminder becomes addictive. Not because she wants to cheat, but because she wants to feel alive again. She wants to feel the spark she hasn't felt in years, the spark she thought age or routine had stolen from her. It's not about wanting someone new. It's about wanting to feel like the best version of herself, the version her husband used to chase, admire, and appreciate. Let me be real. Passion is one of the easiest things to lose, but one of the hardest things to rebuild. It requires vulnerability. It requires honesty. It requires two people willing to drop their pride and actually show up for each other. But often, people let the silence grow too long. They avoid the hard conversations. They settle into the comfort of routine without realizing that routine is slowly killing the very thing that made them fall in love in the first place. So when someone else lights that spark again, even unknowingly, it's like a flame catching dry wood. It burns fast and unexpectedly. The danger isn't the new person, it's the emotional emptiness that had been ignored for too long. When she feels passion again, even for a moment, she clings to it because it reminds her of the warmth she thought was gone forever. And in that moment, the line between emotional need and romantic desire becomes thin, almost invisible. She didn't go looking for passion outside her marriage. She went looking for herself, and she found it in a place she never intended to go. Because passion isn't a luxury, it's fuel. And when you take away that fuel, even a strong marriage can start to run on fumes. The fifth reason is one people don't like to talk about because it forces us to look at the parts of marriage that aren't pretty. The loneliness that can grow even when two people live under the same roof. And loneliness in a marriage hits different. It's not the loneliness of being single or being isolated. It's the loneliness of lying next to someone who feels emotionally 1,000 miles away. It's the loneliness of cooking dinner, raising kids, sharing responsibilities, but not sharing hearts. It's the loneliness of giving everything and getting silence in return. And that silence can break something inside a woman long before she ever thinks about being with someone else. Loneliness is dangerous because it creeps in quietly. You don't wake up one day and say, "I'm lonely." It builds slowly. It shows up when she tries to talk about her day, her worries, her feelings, and gets brushed off like it doesn't matter. It shows up when she reaches out for emotional support and gets half-hearted attention, distracted replies, or a man so buried in work, stress, or his own world that he forgets she has one too. It's when she becomes the strong one for too long, carrying the emotional weight of the whole family while nobody carries hers. Strength turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion turns into emptiness. People always assume a woman seeks another man for passion or excitement, but sometimes she seeks him simply because she's tired of feeling invisible. Sometimes the first person who truly listens to her becomes the first person she opens up to. An emotional connection is powerful. When someone hears her, not just listens, but hears her with presence and sincerity, it reaches a place inside her that had been starving for years. It's like water to a plant that has been wilting quietly in the corner. I've seen women whose husbands believed everything was fine because the bills were paid and the house was running smooth. But inside, she was feeling like a ghost in her own home. She was existing, not living. And when a woman feels unseen long enough, she starts to believe she doesn't matter anymore. That's when she's vulnerable. Not because she wants to cheat, but because she wants to feel like a human being again, not a machine holding everything together. And that's when another man steps in, not because he's better, but because he's present. He asks her how she's doing, and he actually waits for the answer. He notices when she's stressed. He cares when she talks. He makes her feel like her voice holds weight. And that emotional attention becomes things she didn't realize she was starving for until she tasted it again. It's not about romance at first. It's about relief. Relief that someone sees her. Relief that someone values her. Relief that for a moment, she's not carrying the world alone. And once she feels that emotional connection again, even in small doses, it hits her heart like a truth she didn't want to face. She hasn't felt this way in a long time. She hasn't felt appreciated. She hasn't felt prioritized. She hasn't felt understood. And that emotional bond starts to grow slowly at first, then uncontrollably. Because when you give someone what they've been missing emotionally, they naturally lean towards you. They confide in you. They trust you. Loneliness doesn't push a woman toward another man. Loneliness pulls her away from the one she already has. By the time she steps outside the marriage, the emotional breakup already happened inside her long before the physical one ever did. That's the part most people never see. The emotional distance that turned into a quiet void she tried to hide until it swallowed her whole. And sometimes, the first person who reached into that void becomes the person she never expected to fall toward. The sixth reason is the one nobody likes to admit. Because it exposes a wound most marriages pretend doesn't exist. When a woman feels disrespected for too long, something inside her shuts down. Respect is not just about the big things. No cheating, no shouting, no abuse. It's the small daily choices, the little moments that tell her you matter or you don't. And when those moments start leaning toward you don't, the damage begins quietly, almost invisibly, until one day she realizes she's living in a place where her soul no longer feels safe. Disrespect can look calm on the surface. It's the sarcastic comments that cut deeper than he knows. It's brushing off her opinions like she's always overreacting. It's forgetting the promises she took seriously. It's laughing at her dreams or telling her she's too sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic, when all she wants is to be understood. It's the way he stops trying to impress her, stops putting effort into conversations, stops making her feel like she's the woman he once chased. Disrespect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and those whispers echo in her heart until they become walls she builds around herself. I've seen women who gave everything, loyalty, patience, forgiveness, and still got treated like their feelings were too much. You can only shrink yourself for so long before you start disappearing. A woman will bend until she breaks, and if a man doesn't notice the bending, he won't notice the breaking either. And once she breaks, she doesn't always tell him. She just withdraws quietly, emotionally distancing herself to survive. A woman doesn't look for another man when she's respected at home. She looks when she feels dismissed, belittled, or unvalued by the man she built a life with. And the world outside her home is full of people who treat her like she matters, even if it's subtle. A coworker who listens without interrupting. A friend who compliments her without an agenda. A stranger who shows appreciation for something small she did. Respect can come from unexpected places, and when she's starving for it, those small gestures feel huge. They don't make her cheat. They make her wake up to the fact that she hasn't felt respected in a long time. And that awakening is dangerous if her marriage has been ignoring the warnings. Real life stories show this all the time. A woman doesn't suddenly fall for a man she barely knows. She falls for the way he makes her feel, heard, valued, equal. She falls for the way he pays attention to the things her husband forgot to see. She falls for the person who respects her boundaries, her thoughts, her efforts. And sometimes she falls simply because someone finally talked to her like she was important, not inconvenient. That shift can change everything. Respect is the foundation of intimacy. When a woman feels respected, she opens up emotionally and physically. When she feels disrespected, she closes herself off like a locked door. And if someone outside the marriage treats her with the softness she's been missing, she begins to question why she's living without at home. It's not the other man who takes her heart. It's the disrespect that pushed her heart out the door. Disrespect doesn't always break a marriage loudly. Sometimes it dissolves it silently, slowly, day by day, until she reaches a point where she no longer feels guilty for wanting peace somewhere else. And by the time she considers another man, she's already been alone, unvalued, and unheard for far too long. That's when she tells herself she deserves better. Not because she's looking to betray, but because she's tired of betraying her own worth just to stay. The seventh reason is the one people judge without understanding. Sometimes a woman chooses a lover because she wants to feel alive again. Not reckless, not wild, alive. because somewhere in the routine of marriage, she lost herself. And losing yourself is a quiet kind of death. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in slow moments, like when she stops dressing up because no one notices. When she stops dreaming because no one asks. When she starts laughing less because no one listens long enough to hear the sadness behind her smile. A lover isn't always about sex. It's about breathing, feeling, remembering she's still a woman with desires, not just a wife with responsibilities. A woman will give until she's empty. And then one day she realizes no one is pouring back into her. She's cooking, cleaning, fixing, mothering, managing, supporting. But who supports her? Who takes her seriously? Who touches her like she's a miracle, not a burden? Who reminds her that she still has fire inside her? When life feels like one long list of duties, she stops feeling like a person. She becomes a role, a title, an expectation. And when someone new shows her a reflection of the woman she used to be, vibrant, desired, beautiful, it awakens something she didn't know she lost. Imagine spending years being strong for everyone else, only to discover no one notices when you're weak. Imagine being the emotional backbone of a home, but having no one to lean on. Imagine lying next to someone you love, but feeling invisible in your own bed. That loneliness hits deeper than being alone. And when someone outside the marriage starts paying attention, asking how she's doing, telling her she looks beautiful today, listening when she talks, it feels like water to a dehydrated soul. She doesn't fall for him, she falls for the version of herself she becomes when she's seen through kinder eyes. Real life stories show this often. A woman who once laughed like the world couldn't break her now walks around carrying invisible weight. She used to be passionate, playful, soft. Marriage responsibilities turned her into someone serious, exhausted, guarded, and all it takes is one person who says, "You still shine," for her to remember she was once more than just someone's wife or mother. She was a dreamer, a lover, a whole universe, a woman who once felt alive. And when she feels that spark again, even a tiny one, it scares her and excites her at the same time. Because she realizes she's been asleep in her own life. She's been living on autopilot. She's been giving her body, her time, her energy. But she hasn't felt passion in years. Passion is a powerful force. When it dies, it creates a void. And if her marriage hasn't fed that fire, someone else's attention can become the match. This isn't about her wanting to betray her vows. It's about wanting to remember who she is beneath the layers of duty and disappointment. Sometimes a woman seeks a lover because she wants to feel wanted, not tolerated. Cherished, not taken for granted. Seen, not overlooked. And when she starts feeling alive in someone else's presence, it exposes how dead she's been feeling in her marriage. It's not the thrill of forbidden love, it's the H of forgotten love. A woman doesn't risk everything for no reason. She risks it because something inside her is whispering, "You deserve to feel again." And when life numbs her for too long, even a small spark of passion can feel like a lifeline. She reaches for it not because she's selfish, but because she's tired of being emotionally starved. Because she wants to reclaim the parts of herself she thought she'd lost forever. Because she wants to feel human again. In the end, none of this is really about cheating. It's about wounds nobody saw, needs nobody honored, moments nobody cared enough to ask about. People look at a married woman with a lover and see betrayal, but they never ask what broke inside her before she ever crossed that line. They judge the action, but ignore the loneliness that planted it, the silence that fed it, the neglect that grew it. A woman doesn't wake up one day and decide to risk her family, her reputation, her peace. She arrives there after walking through years of being unseen, unheard, untouched in the ways that matter most. At her core, she's searching for warmth, for connection, for the pieces of herself she left behind to keep a home together. And sometimes the world forgets that women bleed quietly long before they ever break loudly. Before she ever steps outside the marriage, she's already stepped outside her own happiness. Before she gives her body to someone new, her spirit has already slipped through the cracks of the life she used to love. But here's the truth no one says out loud. Most of these situations could have been prevented if someone had simply paid attention. If her husband had seen her as deeply as he once did. If he had touched her heart before trying to touch her body. If he had truly listened truly listen to the sighs she didn't say, the tears she didn't cry, the emptiness she didn't admit. A woman doesn't need perfection, she needs presence. She doesn't crave diamonds, she craves devotion. She doesn't want a lover, she wants to feel alive in the arms of the man she chose. And if that man forgets who she is, someone else might remind her. This isn't an excuse, it's a reminder that love dies quietly, and if you don't feed it, someone else's attention can become the oxygen she never knew she was starving for. A reminder that if you don't value a woman while she's yours, you leave space for someone else to see the beauty you took for granted. A reminder that emotional neglect is louder than any argument, and silence can destroy a marriage faster than shouting ever could. And maybe, just maybe, the real lesson is this: whatever you love, nourish it. Whatever you want to keep, appreciate it. Whatever you don't want to lose, protect it. Because no woman drifts unless she feels like she's drifting alone. And when she finally reaches for someone else's hand, it's only because she's been drowning for far too long.